What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Today's guest is Spencer Fagioni.
Yeah, you got it, dude.
Am I
That's
saying
good.
it? Fagioni.
Yeah, there you go.
You guys all know him because you've probably heard his voice a million times, even if you haven't seen him. He is a huge part of all of the awesome events that Garrett has been putting on. He is a pilot, a salesman, does a ton of awesome things. He's crushing it in a bunch of different assets, avenues of life, and we're going to talk to him about it, and I'm curious about some of the stuff that he's got going on. So, how's it going, man? What's happening?
It's going really good, dude. I can't complain. I'm upright. I'm conscious.
Yeah, I'm pretty envious of the helicopter stuff, even though I personally don't want to go down that route because I have too many different routes of spending money and things that I waste too much time on. But I'm pretty envious of that stuff. Is it just like freeing?
Yeah, it really is. It's a very rewarding accomplishment because with a helicopter, unlike an airplane, you can kind of have the freedom to just take off and land wherever you please. And so it gives you kind of very unique access to stop at a buddy's place or just fly along the beach at 300-400 feet. So it's a good time.
That's a weird thought, like, for people. When I first heard about it, they were like, you just land, wherever. I'm like, that seems so wrong. But I agree with it. It should be like that, but it's also like, it seems counterproductive to how your brain would like think of it. You would think you have to like clear with people and like all kinds of crazy FAA stuff, and it's just
well, without getting into it too much, there's different airspaces. In different airspaces, you're allowed to do different things, and so I remember when I was reading the regulations on where, as a helicopter pilot, I can land and whatnot. I read that section 3 or 4 times. I was like, I want to make sure I understand this very clearly and have a printed copy in my wallet at all times, simply because it's very simple. You just have to have permission from the landowner, and you need to be clear of objects and people, so that way you don't endanger anybody. Mm-hmm. And so if you really think about it and you start flying in some of these very rural areas, it's not very simple to just call up the landowner. But what I like about the helicopter is, in the event of emergency, or anything that I determine is emergency, I can just put it down somewhere and wait till things calm down. For example, the weather this morning, and when I went flying yesterday, the weather was not very good. We had low-lying clouds, and I was doing my flight. I turned around as soon as I felt where I was uncomfortable. But in an emergency situation, I can just land it somewhere. And so it's a nice feeling.
I mean, today is really overcast, so it wouldn't be very confidence-inspiring.
No, it's very nerve-wracking when you're in the helicopter and you're approaching that cloud front. You're like, nope.
And you don't really get above them. But that rules seem almost two different things. Like, the one of landing wherever you want seems like landing wherever there's property seems like a rule that is almost like government-oriented. And then the one of, like, not hit anyone, that seems like you're just... That almost seems two completely different, like, avenues of, like, laws.
And I'm giving you the perspective from, like, a 10,000-foot view. There's more layers to it. Yeah. But that's why I encourage everybody. It's, like, the best thing I could ever recommend anybody to do. If aviation interests you in the slightest, the best thing you could ever ask for a Christmas present is a Groupon to go get 1 hour of flight time, whether it's fixed wing or helicopter. We're talking $200 or $300 Christmas present. It's not going to break your bank, but it's going to give you 1 hour at the controls of the aircraft. And you're going to go, wait, this is really cool. I think I'm into this. Or, hey, that was awesome. Bucket list item checked off.
Yeah.
Don't need to do it again. But I've recommended that to people. It's like, hey, dude, if you've always been interested in it, just give it a shot. Spend the few $100, go get the Groupon, go to a local school, and get an hour of flight time. You're going to learn a lot, but it's a very cool experience.
Yeah, I know a couple people in aviation. Maybe I can score an hour or so for the cheap.
Yeah, come on with me, dude. Anytime.
For gas price, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. It's gas prices aren't that bad. I mean, remember when diesel at the height of the pandemic was what, $6.50 a gallon?
Yeah.
That's about what I pay for avgas.
Yeah, it's similar. Like, they're both like kerosene, basically.
Yeah.
Diesel fuel and aviation fuel are very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing though, because like you, Parker, now Garrett's obviously shared that with more people. I've known about it for a while. And
Correct.
It's just like I always try to keep my mouth shut because people would like ask me about it. I'm like, it's not my place to talk about it. It's not my thing. Like, that's how I am about most of his stuff, because it's like, it's not my thing. But the announcing side of things, that almost feels like the most terrifying thing you can do for most people. Would you say that that's probably like half of the population's biggest fear is getting up in front of a crowd of people?
You know, that's so funny you said that, because I took some like entry-level public speaking courses in college when I was at university, and I always kind of found it very simple to give a presentation in front of folks. Like it was never a challenge for me per se. But when it really entered into this large format, large live audience, large broadcast, and I'll give you a good example to answer your question clearly. I handed the mic to Kyle Boosted Boys at one of the events, and we're out on the burnout pad, and I'm like interviewing him live on pay-per-view. He starts talking. What's very challenging and is hard to duplicate in a practice scenario is the delay that your ears hear your voice, because you hear your voice as you speak it, but then the PA system delivers that sound, and sound travels very slowly. And so I've always shared this with people. The brain actually comprehends the human language at about 1,000 words per minute. Now, we as humans generally speak between 120, 140 words per minute. So hypothetically, your brain is processing what I'm saying and maybe will say at a rate nearly 10 times as quickly as I can actually produce the language. So when that's happening in matter of like microseconds while you're speaking in front of an audience, you're trying to have solid word choice.
Yeah.
He started fumbling, and it's
you
like
stumble over your own words.
Exactly.
As they hit you back, you're stumbling over your own thoughts that you just put out there.
Oftentimes you'll see this if you catch it. You'll see people speaking very slowly on mic because they're getting messed up by that delay in the sound. But it's definitely a challenge, and there's a point where I'm at now where it's like I feel very comfortable with it, and it really doesn't affect me negatively. But I'm sure it did in the beginning, and I just had to overcome it because there's really no choice.
You try to tone yourself out, like your own voice out, and hear everything else around you?
To somewhat. I mean, like many of the fans, they like to tone my voice out, as I do too.
Yeah.
But what I do is
We're doing that right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, we'll get into that in a moment. But yeah, the technique that I found most successful is when I'm speaking, I focus my ears, like I try to focus the energy on hearing what's coming out of my mouth. I do not play into any of the background or echo or delayed sound. And so I just simply listen to what's coming out of my ear right from here, those 4 inches. I focus on that, and that allows me to speak clearly. Once that happens, and you're doing that for probably a period of like 5 or 10 seconds, you can pretty much put that on the subconscious part of your mind, and then you can focus more directly on the speech and the conversation you're having with the driver.
Yeah, that would be the really tough part for me. My brain doesn't work like that.
But it can, though.
No, but as a kid, I was actually like, they sent me these special things, and they diagnosed me with this stuff. They were like, he can't focus on one sound at once. It's called auditory processing. Okay. And you set me in a room with 20 other people around me, and somehow I'm listening to everything instead of like, that's why I need to be in a room like this.
Gotcha.
You have to put me in solitude, basically, because I can't just focus on the one thing. If 10 conversations are going on around me, I'm in all of them. My brain is broken like that.
You know what's funny about that? That's a very unique skill that would be useful if you were to play in an orchestra, for example. Because when you're in a 50 or 60 piece orchestra and you're, whether you're the head, first chair violin, first chair viola, you're kind of leading your department, so to speak. Yeah. But you need to hear where the rest of the orchestra is at. So that would be a very good skill. We'll probably slap a violin in your hands here in the next year or two.
Yeah, my level of tone deaf and lack of interest in music probably keep me out of there.
Yeah. We'll get you a recorder in the back.
Yeah, he can just hang out. So the announcing stuff though, where did you you have no announcing background at a car event. No. To be put in a stage of like, hey, there's going to be at least 500,000 people potentially watching this or whatever. I don't know what the numbers are, but something around there. They're like, go talk about cars that you're still entry level on.
Correct. So I'll kind of give you the whole story on that. So it started with in 2018, me and my good guy friends from Arizona. I was living in Seattle, Washington at the time. We all got together and said, hey, we have to go to one of these Cletus and car events. They look like right up our alley. This is everything that we did growing up. And so we go to the Houston Cletus and Cars in 2018. I believe it was the fall one. And we had a blast, right? And so during the national anthem ceremony, we actually had an American flag. We're out on the burnout pit, and it was us, the team, and then some other people to help and just kind of hold the flag while we're waving it. I happened to be standing next to Garrett when that happened. They recorded, it was a recorded playing over the speaker, which is not an uncommon thing at most events. Very standard, events, nothing wrong with it. It's a great place to start. And I said to Garrett, I go, hey, Garrett, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem for your events. And he goes, like, brushes it off. Like, we didn't have a conversation about it. It was like, I'm walking this way, he's walking this way too. He was like, hey, dude, I'm going to sing the national anthem at one of your events. And he's like, okay.
Sure.
Like, whatever, dude. You know how many people come up to Garrett and say,
oh, yeah, we've heard
like,
everything.
I've done it. Like, hey, I'm going to build this car. It's going to have 10,000 horsepower. He's like, nice, dude. Go for it.
I'm going to beat you in the stick shift class. You watch.
Yeah, exactly. So it was one of those things he'd heard 1,000 times before. And so another, like, 6 or 10 months go by, and it's 2019. And he hits me up one day. He goes, hey, we're going snowboarding in a week. Like, let's go snowboarding. I was like, all right, cool. I'll meet you there. We go there. And I've been convinced that he invites me to go on these events so that I can rent the car because he's not allowed to. So I always rent the car. It's my responsibility. Yeah. But we have a great time. And he peer pressures me into singing the national anthem. Or actually, no, when we're driving from the airport, I'm like singing the song in the car, right? And he's like, dang, you can kind of sing. I was like, hey, easy, bud. Like, I sing in the shower just like everybody else. Kind of sing, whatever. He gets me to sing the national anthem on the mountain. I'm on a chairlift with 5 other randoms, and all of my friends are on the chairlift in front of me. So he's filming it. It's like, you know, when Garrett films something, it's like, you just kind of do it just because it's funny.
Yeah.
So I wing it. I go for it. Well, next thing you know, we're on the gondola over the park. Well, people on the park are listening, and they start singing along to the end of the national anthem, and then we finish it. And I was like, dang, that was kind of weird. Like, nobody got a video of it, but half of the mountain below us was singing the national anthem. So it's kind of like one of those, like, wow, that was a really random, like, kind of goosebumps kind of thing.
Spurred the whole mountain to be part of it.
Yeah, so now I've got this, like, really awkward minute and a half left on the chair ride. These guys are sitting next to me. They're, like, really quiet. Like, when you're on a snowboard mountain, you have your mask on, your goggles on. You can't see their faces. One guy goes, hey, that was kind of good. So I was like, thanks. Like, it was so awkward.
Yeah.
But it was after that he was like, dude, you got to sing the national anthem at an event. And so we came up to the 2020, Freedom 500, and I had just moved here to Florida. I was living with him temporarily, and it came down to like, hey, dude, you need to announce it. Have you ever announced anything before? I said, no, not really, but I think I got it. Like, and the day of the event, he goes, hey, you've watched like some NASCAR announcing, right? I said, yes. What he didn't ask me was how much and how recently. Well, it was from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. that morning, the day of the Freedom 500.
Yeah.
That's when I had watched NASCAR announcing. 3 hours.
When you lie on your resume and get the job.
Oh, yeah. It was one of those. And then with a very unique set of circumstances, I think it went really well. There was a lot of great feedback. And Garrett comes up to me after the event and goes, dude, I think you did so good of a job. You're never going to be able to race in any of these events. I'm sorry, bud. And I was like, well, this is a tough but great spot to be in because I feel very honored to have the position I have. It's a very big challenge, but it's rewarding, and I love what I do. I like working with the fans. It's a good time.
Well, and the role has evolved because it used to be like, oh, here's this mic. Now it's like, hey, come in. We got to do pre-show tests and everything. And like, because I was at the first one, obviously, and it was crude as a first one is and should be, and it's grown substantially, and there's multiple announcers, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. You've announced for other events too. You were at Holly's event. Yeah. That was a pretty cool deal to go up there for that. Yeah,
I've had a fellow buddy in the announcing game for a while. He was unable to make event, and he plugged me because they said, hey, who do you know that could not drop the ball, that could do us solid? And so I've gotten a referral to go do some outside gigs for Holly LS Fest and Ford Fest, which was really fun. But I'm not necessarily pursuing a big career in announcing because I have my business I'm very passionate about. However, it's fun when I can to do those things because I love doing it. It's a good time.
Yeah, and you said when you first moved down here, you were living with Garrett. I remember that time. I think you were living with Garrett, but we were all like, is just Spencer just like unemployed? Like, what's he doing? But like, you worked, but like, it didn't feel like that. And we're all like kind of confused by it. We're like, he's here, but like, what's going on?
I danced the line between like vagrant and squatter, like, because I had been there for enough months where I wasn't working. Like, people didn't see the work I did. Like, I own a business where I receive, income, whether I'm actually doing the job or not. And so it allows me to have a very flexible lifestyle, but it allows me to earn income whether I'm at that time we were fixing potholes at the Freedom Factory. Garrett just bought it. I moved here. It's like there was a lot of work to do.
It was like laying sod.
Yeah, it's so funny because you say I wasn't working, but I'm pretty sure I remember having 80-hour work weeks at the Freedom Factory.
Oh yeah,
literally shoving asphalt, mowing the lawns, doing weeds, cleaning bathrooms. Like Al Carson and I became really good buddies during that time because it was just hours and hours. It just somebody had to do it, and I was here, and I don't like to sit around. So
yeah, I would be up at the shop in Clearwater, and I'd come back down at like the end of the day, and I'd be like, man, sorry guys.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
Yeah, no, it was tough, but it was so much fun, and that was part of how I felt justified for staying at Garrett's. He was very kind to let me stay there for an extended period of time, and then
you and Adam were there for a while.
Actually, Adam had just left.
Oh yeah,
and Alec had just moved down here to start at the Freedom Factory, so I kind of came in a month after him, which was like a month and a half after the Freedom Factory was purchased. So that was kind of how I got into that and got going. Working but not working.
Yeah, it was a weird thing for some of the people on the outside because we all knew you were like obviously not some homeless dude that just like moved in to mooch off Garrett. We were like, he obviously makes good money, but we were just confused by it all.
Yeah. Well, that's how the whole thing starts with like, what does he run, a Ponzi scheme? Is it a pyramid scheme? Like it's easy to just kind of guess because nobody really came up and asked me, but it was one of those things like. First off, the whole friend group out here is like Florida to the core. They've lived here, grew up here. I mean, you got Garza, Chad, JH. These boys have been in this neighborhood for probably going on 2 decades now. So then I come in, city slicker, wearing like Lululemon and collared shirts out to dinner, and everyone's like, "What are you wearing?" We're going to Yard House. Like, these are my clothes. Like, but it took a while to adjust for them to be like, I don't know if Spencer's us, And so it really gave that sort of separation where they're like, who is this kid? And why does Garrett know him? Like, he's not like us, but whatever. We all get along.
Why
now.
is he announcing at a car event?
Yeah.
It was all kind of confusing. And I mean, it worked out really well.
Yeah,
because
I think
now
so.
you're very permanent Seam Bradenton resident. Because for a while you were like, I don't know if I'll stay here for that long. Because you've bounced around a lot. You were in Seattle. You were in Arizona, right? You were other places before
Correct,
that.
yeah. I've probably lived in like 5 or 6 states now. I'm very mobile. I don't like to be tied down to a place, and I don't get emotionally attached to places or things. And I find that to be a strength most of the time. Can be a weakness, but I'm never married to a home, an asset, a car.
You are married now.
I am married now.
So you might be a little more.
Yes,
a little more rooted.
Exactly. And I am buying a house. I should be moving in within like the next 3 weeks. So I definitely made some long-term decisions to stay here, and I think I'm very excited about it. But yes, prior to that, I was very mobile and moving around a lot.
Yeah, it seemed like you were definitely could have been gone like 1 or 2 days. You had been on your way somewhere else. So I know we talked about buying a house a lot. You did finally.
I did.
Pulled the trigger.
Yeah,
I'm pretty pumped about that.
I'm very pumped too. I think it was a house that that had been on the market for a while. That believe it or not, Garrett had showed me, and here I am buying it. But it's a good spot. I got some acreage. I got a shop out back.
Nice.
It's going to help me grow my family and
land a helicopter there if you need to.
Yes, yeah. That was like if I could make a home purchase happen and have a place to land a helicopter, which I was successful in finding, it's good because, gosh, that's a treat.
That's
right?
a tough requirement. I actually have a realtor buddy that's like a big car guy, and I'm going to have him on the podcast, and I want to ask him some of the craziest requests like that. Because when you talk to a realtor asking somewhere like, I needed a shop like this, that was one thing that so many realtors, when I was buying a house, they were like, kept like thinking I could just look past that. They would show me houses, and I'm like, it doesn't have the 2 main requirements. And they were like, oh, but like, it's a great house. I'm like, well, what are you talking about?
Yeah, it meets none of my needs. Like, these are needs, these are okays. Like,
I'm like, what check boxes does it check? It has a bedroom and a bathroom. Like, that's not unique. Like, I need more than that. Yeah. So it was some fighting that I had to do with
and the
that.
problem is with Lakewood Ranch being like designated as one of the #1 places to live. Like, it was rated in articles like the top place to move to in America. It made the housing market a very trying thing out here. And I found myself looking to spend, knocking on the door of $1 million to buy a new home that, yes, I could design and find all the features and everything I wanted, but I looked at the blueprints. I would be 24, my garage wall would be 24 feet from my neighbor's garage wall. And I was like, okay, before I pull the trigger on this, because my family, my wife and I and our daughter, we need a new house. Ours isn't falling apart, but it's time. But I was like, I can't spend that kind of money on a house that puts me like a house that I don't really love, that I don't want to be at more than a couple years. And I was like, that's a lot of money. So then this home came up, it was shown to me, and I was like, all right, it's a big ask. Yes, it's more than I anticipated, but can I do it? Sure. We just made the offer and they approved it, and
yeah, it seems like people are pretty eager to take offers right now.
yeah.
Like houses are sitting a little bit longer than they were.
Well,
a year
let's talk
ago.
about that. Actually, last week, Forbes magazine released some data that we've had the lowest number of mortgage applicants per week in 27 years.
Yep, I saw that same statistic. I was just thinking about that. I was just talking to my wife about that because she wants to potentially buy like a rental property or something else. Put some money somewhere that could make money. And I'm like, well, let's see what the next 8 months shows here, because there might be a fire sale.
Yeah.
On a lot of things.
Who's to say, man? I know that as long as I can cover my 6 in my house for my family, like I don't give a damn what happens in the market. Like just put me where I am. I'm putting a chunk of change down so that way the market could go down another 15, 20% and I'll still have positive equity in my home. And I consider that buying right. Like I'm not using an FHA. Like I saved up, so it's the appropriate way to do something like that,
I don't think I could. It would take a lot for my house to go upside down where I'm at, with the amount of time I've been here. I've been here 3 years now, and 19 was a good time to buy. 18 was a good time to buy. So it would take a lot for it to go upside down, but it's still always a possibility. It doesn't have to go upside down, but it can not have a buyer.
Yeah.
Like in 2008, it was for sale signs in every neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It's always one of those scary things. After dreaming of home ownership, I dream of not home ownership. It's like that terrible burden in a lot of ways, because there's something always breaking, like washing machine breaks and stuff like that. It's like, it's great, but it's not.
Yep. I'll know what you're talking about all too soon.
It's the major liability, as Rich Dad Poor Dad would say.
Mm-hmm. Great book.
The biggest liability you can own.
Yeah, it is. So when it comes to financial talk and financial literacy, he's huge on leveraging debt. That's sort of his go-to. Then you got like Susie Orman. She's very big like on no debt. And so you have a lot of these very big names in the space in the financial services world that have different takes on it. And
you listen to like Ramsey, and he's like,
Dave Ramsey, no debt. Yeah, get out of debt. Don't have debt. 15-year mortgages. Like, he's, again, a very prominent name in the financial services space. But what I've always, and I'll say this with a word of caution, because those guys have taught a lot of people. Their courses, their books have helped a lot of people out of financial situations. And I have no courses and no books, right? But I practice in financial services every week. That's what I do for my career. That's what I do for a living. I've been doing this for 6 years now, going on 7. Mm-hmm. So I've had a lot of in the weeds, like in the trenches, understanding of clients' actual circumstances, the vehicles we leverage to get people out of those circumstances. And so I've got a lot of hands-on experience, not to say that Dave Ramsey doesn't, but I think there's something to be said. Someone that graduates with a master's degree in dental extractions, but you've got Parker, who's done dental extractions every week, every day for the last 4 or 5 years. It's like you could be just graduating, but here's a guy that's been doing it. And that's where it's like I make my decision who I'm going to gather some of my information from.
My thought is like Dave Ramsey is great for 99% of people that want to like just be financially not in debt. Yeah. But then like you listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad because he's trying to like make you money, really, like money, like actual make you money.
Yeah, he wants,
and that's a great book if people have never read it. It's
absolutely
really worth the read.
Yeah,
Rich Dad Poor Dad. Read that twice because it's
pretty
mind-opening.
So what I've found myself doing, I do read a good amount, probably more than most people. What I've found helps me read is because I'm not like an exceptionally smart person, but I know how to like put a little extra effort in.
Yeah, I can hardly read.
When I read books, I read them with a pencil. Because that pencil allows me to, in the back several pages, anytime there's a vocabulary word that I don't fully know, in the context of the sentence, I can read it and understand what that word meant, but I find it valuable to write that vocabulary word down in the back Webster's Merriam Dictionary, the definition. Now I'm writing it down. Committing it to memory, in writing it down commits it to memory with a 40% increased probability that you're going to keep that information. So,
yeah, that's a good tip for sure. One thing that I heard that kind of was like one of those moments where you're like, oh yeah, somebody was like, don't read 300 books, read, 5 books 5 times, like 10 times, read the books more than once. And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. Like, you can't expect to just retain the whole knowledge by just like going through the book once.
Yeah.
So like, 6 months after, pick it up again and you'll probably realize there's different stuff. You read it quicker anyways. And it's like,
well, there's different concepts you're going to gain from it. There's a book that's called Infinite Banking that I would like to loan to you. You got to read that book a couple times because there's strategies of how to leverage your income and finances. It's like, okay, you can't implement every strategy when you put the book down. You're like, all right, honey, we need to talk about our finances.
Like a light switch, like, and now I know it.
To hell with that.
I got a good one. I'll trade you off. Alex Hormozi, $100 million offer is a pretty good one. It's like a short book that's like,
I've heard of that, but I've not read that one.
It's a pretty good one. I got it upstairs. I'll loan you out. I recently learned that I have severe ADHD. I took this test online and it was like, you have severe ADHD. I was like, that actually adds up.
Yeah, I didn't need an online test to tell me that. I've known that for a while. I've been medicated at a young age, but I'm obviously not doing the meds anymore and stuff. But yeah, I was that kid. I was very ADHD growing up and still am.
See, I think mine just manifested it in different ways, like not like the jittery, but like the scatterbrained and like focus on 12 things at once and unable to do one thing to like what I should just focus on one thing to its finish line, but it's more just like, I'll just do 50 other things.
Yep. It's kind of like, when people say they can multitask really well, it's like, you really can't. Jordan Peterson put it really clearly. It's like you're divvying up percentages of your brain on multiple things at a time. Your brain's not being fully effective on any of them. You're not really getting it.
You think you can
multitask.
Did that camera turn off?
I thought I saw it out of the corner of my eye probably about a minute ago.
Doing pretty good too. I hadn't had many camera failures.
Oh, gotcha.
Camera failures seem to be my normal Achilles heel.
Really?
See, this is why I need like a person.
Yeah.
A person with a computer would be cool.
You will. And then a TV. Yeah.
I have the TV. I just need somebody that knows how to use it.
No, you're right. But we'll be able to watch this thing grow.
Why you talk to?
Well, it's funny you said that.
Yeah, you brought 3 coffees. I don't know if 4 coffees. I don't know if
I
they
actually
can see
brought
'em.
4 coffees. Let's bring it. Let's bring this in here. So
yeah.
For those of you at home that probably do or don't know this, Cooper's a very big coffee drinker, right? And so
some would say addicted.
I've heard him say very terrible things about some of our local chain coffees. So what I've done today is I've gotten 4 coffees from 4 different locations.
Wow.
Numbering each of the cups, and I'm gonna see if Cooper can taste, test, sample, and what his level of accuracy is on each of the different.
So if you're listening, there's coffees in white cups labeled 1 through 4. What do we got going on here?
They've had some time to.
1 is watered down.
Oh, you're already ripping it? Oh, you're just smelling.
Them.
You're doing a smell.
I just smelled them.
Well, let's get these bad boys, these lids off.
I can tell you 1 already smelt watered down.
Okay.
Too much water to bean ratio. And there are obviously black coffee because if you drink coffee with oat milk or something weird like that, I ain't interested.
All right, so what number is that right there?
That's number 1. And has no coffee flavor, no bean flavor whatsoever.
Really?
That I wouldn't buy.
I wonder if I should show the camera close up which one that is while you're taste testing them.
This one has like a pretty weird tangy taste to it, like almost the water that was used was not filtered in any way.
What number is that?
2.
Okay.
This one, the coffee sat too long.
Okay.
Coffee sat there for probably 5 hours, if I was to guess. Three isn't bad. I would drink 3.
You would drink 3? All right, we're down to the last one, folks.
4. 4 is hotter. That's nice. 4 would be my choice.
4 would be your choice. All right, so let's get them in order here. Mm-hmm. We got 1,
1, 2, 3, 4.
3, and 4. I'm going to tell you the 4 brands of coffee they are.
Okay. What did I drink?
You drank Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay, Dunkin' Donuts was probably...
Let me give you all of them first.
Okay.
You drank Wawa, gas station cup coffee. Then you drank Circle K, gas station cup of coffee. Then you drank Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks.
Okay. So number 2 was the one I said sat around for too long.
Yes.
That was probably Circle K.
Wow. All right. That was correct. However, it was a fresh ground machine that freshly ground the grinds and then brewed it right then and there. So it was an instant cup of coffee. It made it right in front of me. I went over to the pour cup things, they didn't have it, but it made it right in front of me. But you're correct, Circle K.
Interesting. Number 1 was probably Starbucks. Not Starbucks. Number 1 was probably Dunkin'.
Incorrect. Number 1 was Wawa.
Huh. Interesting.
Gas station cup. Number 1 was your least favorite, the watered down.
That was my least favorite.
Okay.
Wow. What about number 3 then? Have been Dunkin'.
Have a sip of that again. That's Wawa coffee.
Interesting. It definitely has the most consistent flavor, I would say. Consistent like taste where it doesn't kind of like pucker your cheeks because it's like got like a harsh bitterness to it. Number 3 then I would say was Dunkin'.
Number 3 was Dunkin' Donuts. You're very correct. Mm-hmm. Which leaves what to
4
number
being
4?
Starbucks. The
and
one I said I would drink.
This one you said you would drink. And what have you told me in the past about Starbucks coffee?
I told you it's not that good.
You told me it's not that good. You also said they burn their beans.
You can taste that.
Yeah.
You actually can taste that the beans do taste burned.
Gotcha.
But it's still the one that I would drink.
Yeah.
But also because I have a monkey brain that would drink all 4 of these without question.
Yeah, exactly. You put a cup of coffee in my hands at a racetrack, I'll drink it.
But yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I feel like I wasn't too off. I feel like I did.
No, you did pretty
decent.
good. You did pretty good.
All things considered, like
I was excited to hear that. It makes me happy knowing that the Starbucks coffee is your favorite one out of the 4 because you just trash them all the time.
I do.
All the time.
I do trash them.
You
And look, I got
never go
number
to
4.
Starbucks?
No, I always go to Starbucks.
Oh, really?
Because my wife.
Oh, gotcha.
I don't willingly
blame
go
it on
anywhere
your wife.
for coffee.
Blame it on your wife. Okay, gotcha.
I don't willingly go anywhere for coffee because I normally just make it myself for like 50 cents.
Yeah, you want to know what was the most expensive cup out of here?
Probably Dunkin'.
Starbucks $2.89, Dunkin' $2.39,
Really?
Wawa $1.87, and Circle K was $2.11.
Interesting. The Starbucks did also hit different because it was a little warmer.
Yeah, it's true.
It was definitely the hottest.
I got them all within moments of each other, so we did our best, but that was a fun little exercise.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. That was a fun quiz, and I'm happy with myself that I actually was able to understand the differences because, you know, someday I would like to come out with a Cooper's Coffee brand of bean or
do a
something.
brand collaboration. That'd be cool.
Or like a Car Guy coffee.
Yeah.
Where you can do like some unique,
Considering there's so many cars and coffees, to have a Car Guy coffee.
Yeah.
And then every different blend could have a different car. You could rebag stuff every month, same blend. You could have limited edition runs of bags. I mean, you could have the guy like me because I like coffee. I lived in downtown Seattle where the very first Starbucks was. There's very, very competitive coffee markets out there. And so I love black coffee. That's my preferred way to drink it. But
I look at like what
I would buy in.
Black Rifle did with
Absolutely.
guns and coffee. And I'm like, man, you could probably do the same with cars and coffee.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of like the two separate industries, but I feel like gun guys and car guys completely overlap.
Yep.
Like 90% of that world is on top of each other. Even if like you'd be at the track and like if you like, oh, like it's a 9mm, you see like everybody like turn around, they're like, what? You talking about
Smith & Wesson?
Talking about guns?
Yeah, right.
It's kind of
they go very hand. It's you know, anything that goes bang at a car show is gonna get along well with pretty much everybody.
It's kind of like side by sides. I always joke like when car guys are like, I'm done with cars, they're too expensive, they'll go get like $100,000 side-by-side trailer and stuff, and they're like, this is just way more my speed.
That's funny.
It's like the two. It always happens to my friends. They either go ball out on a boat after they're like, I'm gonna take a little break from racing. It's too expensive.
Yeah, they just divest the funds into something else, another hobby, and that's kind of like what it is about helicoptering. Is like, yes, I could and would love to have a race car and be out there with the fellows all the time, right? But I'm more passionate about aviation than I am race cars. I will build a race car this year. Now that I have a home with a shop in it, I can do most of those things myself. And contrary to popular belief, I know my way around it. Tools a little bit, I still have to call the plumber to change my shower head, but that's neither here nor there. I could reset the valve springs.
You could work on an LS. I mean, anybody can work on an LS.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's funny is like, going back to some of the announcing stuff is some of the earlier comments. The very first event, people loved me. The second through 15th event, I was the worst person on planet Earth. And, I don't really ever read the comments other than for my own personal entertainment because I truly find them entertaining. I think I've only ever responded to one, and the gentleman was extremely cordial, and we actually had good discussion. Like it was a comment that was said in a way that was like, all right, I can respond to this gentleman. He's open to it. But I read those, and I just have a kick out of them. I don't read all of them, but they're pretty funny most of the time.
I don't like when like celebrities are like, I don't read the comments. It's not. I shouldn't read the comments. Like, I don't even care.
Get in on one of these with you?
I mean,
I'll do the Duncan one.
Have at it. Let me know what you think. I don't like when people say that because I'm like, you kind of have to read the comments. Like it's part of it. Like you can't shy away from a little bit of criticism.
I agree and disagree. The person that I've heard the most say they don't read their comments is Joe Rogan. Mm-hmm. Well, Joe Rogan is doing his stuff for fun. He doesn't have a viewer base that he's trying to constantly push the envelope and entertain necessarily in the way our YouTube friends and community are always trying to put content that's entertaining. And the viewership comments are important to YouTube because it allows you to know like, hey, did I miss the mark on my video or did I hit it as expected?
He's a tough one though because how many comments a day is he getting on stuff? Like, like me. Yeah. Me, I have a finite enough comments where I can like engage with them a little bit, like at least read them all. But like that, there's probably 10,000 comments a day. Yeah, on Instagram, YouTube, and stuff. Like it's almost too overwhelming. Like you almost read news articles if you're him. Yeah, well, but like Garrett can still kind of read them. He's not quite at that like tipping point where there's so much content in so many different spots that comments are just like
I think that's
a wash.
That's one of the things that I would say I compliment Garrett on is he still is in touch with his fans. He's not too big for his own britches, right? Yeah. So if you go to his Facebook fan page or the Freedom Factory fan page, it's not uncommon to see him engaging with his fans in there. Mm-hmm. They love that. He loves it. It's like that constant like, hey, he's not as far away as he seems, right? And so I think there's a big value in that. And like I said, I agree and disagree. On the extreme side, there are people that do not. And then I think on our YouTube world, it is something that we see people do, and it's a smart thing to do. I encourage you to do it. I've done it. I've gotten feedback from comments before. Now, granted, I enter the comments just looking for the pure entertainment. I read them with my wife, and we die laughing.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. There's nothing great. You're going to say to me.
No, that hasn't been said by my own mother already.
Or it's going to offend me enough where it's going to, stop me from doing what I'm doing.
No, I grew up with 3 brothers. And so it's pretty much playing a constant game of like Assassin's Creed where everyone's trying to kill you. Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of violence in our home growing up and
poor table.
Yeah. It's a very competitive world growing up in my home, and I love my brothers, and they're the best people that push me.
I'm so hard on myself that you're not going to like somebody like, oh man, you sucked in that race. Like if I lost, like you better believe I was hard on myself after. Yeah. You're not going to offend me more than me or my friends that are talking shit. Cause like, those opinions I respect the most when like, Do
you remember that meme I made on Instagram where it's you in the car with the GoPro on the dash and then you are reading the time slip and then you go, well, that's disappointing. And I just started adding in whatever words I could. Like when your wife texts you, say dinner's not hot on the stove, she doesn't have dinner ready, and then it's like, well, that's disappointing. Like
that's kind of just how it is though. Like you gotta be hard on yourself. Yeah. People that think that they have no flaws is a scary thing to be in, and don't take any criticism is a scary place to be. I wouldn't really want to be on that level.
No, yeah, it's a I don't really find myself being in a community. Like, I don't see those people in my inner circle. Like, that characteristic trait is one that I haven't found brings a lot of value to what I'm trying to accomplish and stuff. So I don't know very many people like that.
Echo chamber at all.
Yeah. I would rather people tell me how bad I am than how good I am. And so it's like when people tell me like, you can sing so good, it's like, I've never taken a lesson in my life. Like, I think I may have some natural talent, but when people are like, dude, you should go on American Idol, you should do the voice, it's like, easy, brother. Easy. Like, I could probably go up there, maybe make them laugh. I'd be better off writing up a stand-up skit.
Would you even enjoy that?
But for me, I would, because I'm always a positive person. Like, even my wife's like, dude.
Would you even enjoy like American Idol? Like, if you got the shot at that?
No, I don't know. I'd be like out there. I would just try to end up being like, I would do singing to get them interested, and the next thing they'd be like, why is he doing stand-up? It's like, well, I wrote this,
That's what I would love to try to do.
Yes, you and I've talked about that. I think the day that we do open mic, I think we should go together and we should not tell people. We should just go on like a...
Just go send it.
Just go send it.
The one downtown Sarasota, like, you sign up for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So you just have to prepare 3 minutes. Yeah. And if it starts bombing, you can improvise.
Bro. And I
start making fun of the crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, right? So I've done this. That's what's so crazy about the Freedom Factory stuff is there are times where we have a caution and then people look to me like the directors of the show. And like you said, we've come a long way. Before it was a very crude show, but we have absolutely grown. And it's so cool to see this thing evolve. But when it comes to those downtimes or those cautions or the messes or the cleaning up or the changing of the track in between races, it's like a lot of people are turning to me for me to keep this crowd engaged and to keep them entertained. And so one of the fun things about it that challenges me is the fact that I want to be PG in my humor. It's important to be. That's the show.
Yeah, it's a family environment. It's a
family environment.
Exactly.
So being able to jester while not crossing the line is important. And I've been
accused of crossing the line before.
Yeah, we could bring that up in full force right now. But
that's just accusations.
Yeah, dude.
It wasn't recorded or anything.
Let's talk about it. Yes, when you take anything out of context, it can definitely be spun in any which way you want. But in that situation, I was saying nothing but great things about her driving, how she embarrassed all these guys.
So we're talking about a certain
we're talking about
here. Okay.
Haley Deegan. We're talking about the
great driver, better than all of us.
Yep, terrific driver, better than all of us.
Much better than all of us.
Exactly. She had the most positions gained in that race. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you guys got to remember, these are like used cop cars. So you're getting this run-of-the-mill, like 80, 90, 100,000 mile cop car. Roll of the dice, standard vehicle, and she's able to outdrive people in a not race car. So then when she makes it up like 17 positions or something absurd, and then gets taken out in the 83rd or 85th lap, I was just praising her, saying how great it was, and we were already doing like standing ovations for her and stuff. And then I just dropped a funny, like, it was in the context of that, and I got a lot of people that were very upset about it, but there's only one person's feedback that I always listen to, and I always just shut up about, and that's Garrett's. And so when I talked with Garrett, and he goes, "Hey, dude, did you say this?" I said, "Yes, this is what I said." And he goes, "Okay, no problem. Haley's okay. Let's just go forward," And so it was one of those things that the next day, Haley leans into the joke.
Yeah.
She's talking about how all the people on Twitter were like defending her, and she speaks up on Twitter going, "Yo, I don't need y'all to defend me. I heard it and it was funny. I'm laughing with him. We're not laughing at you. We're laughing with you." And so luckily, I mean, she could have chosen to burn me at the stake. It could have been the end of my announcing.
I think she even kind of did a meme about it on the next race.
The next day.
She wrote it on the car, though, didn't she?
The next day, she came to the Cletuson car. She wrote "grocery getter" on the car. She wrote "eggs, milk, bread," and then she finishes her burnout, has a Publix bag of groceries, and throws it to me over the barrier. And I was like, oh, gosh, this is
It's
hilarious.
a great way to get clicks.
Yeah.
Controversy like that. Great way to get clicks.
And like, did we go into the gray area? Yeah, but maybe a fraction. But I don't feel like we're crossing lines in
it's
that.
The white knights always that come in like to save someone.
Yeah.
And most people don't need that because they're adults.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's
grown men think that they need to come do that.
Yes, they did. And there was some people that told me how like I have 2 daughters and you're the most misogynistic thing I've ever seen on the world. It's like, that's so crazy because I have a daughter too.
Yeah.
And we practice misogyny at my home all the time. Like, what? Come on, dude. Like, I'm being a dad. I'm being a father. I'm being a role model. It's like, you know, and I've always told people I'm an 8 out of 10 guy, meaning 8 out of the 10 jokes I'm going to say will usually hit. But there's always 2 out of 10 that just, in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is going to be great to say. You say it, and it's crickets. That's how it works. Like, and I'm not trying to be a 10 out of 10 guy. I'm trying to be me and just, like, enjoy the show and be funny, have some comic relief without making it about me. You know, it's like, it's not a me show. And so I got to, like, stay in a lane. And
well, it's multiple hours of live.
Oh, it's crazy, dude.
To just improv your way through it.
Yeah.
You almost need to go to like improv classes. Like,
yeah. Well, you should see my phone, dude. I actually have pre-written material.
I believe it.
Yeah, I have material. There was one event that I went to in LS Fest where we had a 45-minute delay due to a sewer line breaking onto the track. And I did the best I could, but it was that moment that I decided I'll never do a live event again without having some pre-written, practiced material that can give me 15 minutes of me speaking. Then with crowd interaction, I can squeeze 25 minutes of pure comedy out of it.
Yeah, that's legitimately stand-up because
That's-
I'm
yes.
a huge
And that's-
stand-up fan. So it's
Me
like
too.
I always think about like, you know, the car-related stuff needs a little bit of that, but it's so hard to hone a skill like
It's
that
very hard.
in a car world where you don't get mic time every weekend.
No.
So it's hard to hone the skill.
No, you're right, and that's where it's been a crazy journey. And so eventually, you know, I think this is the year where I'll begin my YouTube presence and just doing things that I enjoy with no real ambition to have some big, you know, industry changing thing. I just want to live my life and do fun things. And I think there's some things I do in my life that people would enjoy to see. And I think part of that will be some of that, like, what does it take to actually produce a valuable entertainment aspect into a live show where you have thousands of people present, and then an unknown number of thousands of people watching globally. I mean, we get comments from Sweden, Germany, like, you know.
Yeah, it's worldwide for sure.
Just everywhere.
100%.
Everywhere.
Every place in the world. And then like, you know, people in Australia are watching it at like starting at like 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning to start watching it.
Oh yeah.
Just because of the timing and stuff. It's like, it's a global event.
It is. It is. And so it's like there's a lot more. The very first event was the first event. And then I think all of our eyes were open. We're like, whoa, the internet's receiving this really well. And we knew we put on a good show. The race was spectacular. And the best thing is that we're just doing it with our friends and having fun. And then we just have a camera there. We would have done this without it. Like, how many times have you and I been at the Freedom Factory on a Sunday where Garrett's like, all right, we're going to get Chief out and just and we're just doing stuff, no cameras, having fun. Like, we do that anyways. So now we're just doing it on a larger format. And so Garrett's put an amazing thing together, and he's got he's got brilliant ideas. And, you know, I look up to him. In
that first one was interesting too.
Oh yeah,
that story has probably never really even been told.
Yeah, and I think it's
the COVID first one where it's like, we were there and the day before they were like, hey, everything's shut down and everybody's in town. All the cameras are set up. We got this live event supposed to be going, spectators. And it's kind of just like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do here? Do you roll over and not do it? That was a tough one.
Yeah.
And only one person can make that decision.
Yeah, no, for real. I think with the introduction of Project Prime, who's done an amazing job helping put all these live events out.
Crispy.
Yeah. Shout out to my boy Rice Krispie. He's done a great job, but I think with the Smoke Show, you saw the Smoke Show, how they do these hour-long documentary style videos. Like, it was more of a movie. Like, I could sit there with my family and each new step of the movie was engaging. And I was like, this is good. It's popcorn worthy. And I think the Smoke Show, as they do more and more shows, it might be something they circle back and do that whole like biography or that whole like in-depth analysis of what did the first Freedom 500 overcome to make happen. So
that was a big deal to overcome because it was crazy. Like, I remember Garrett was out in the center of it because nobody could even come within like 50 feet of him, and it was like we didn't know. We were in a mystery week of like what is going on.
Yeah,
is everyone here gonna die?
Yeah,
like that's kind of
right.
that's how everybody made it sound. Like everybody that's within 5 feet of somebody else, they're done.
Well, it's funny because like I want to like set the record straight on this. Is like we did take it very seriously though.
100%.
Even though we had an event at the beginning, because it was such an unknown, we took such ridiculous precautions. And when you saw the drivers designing their vehicles separately, well, they didn't just go back into the pits and then go hang out with each other. No, we literally had everything. We didn't know either, right? Now, take it for what it is now that what we know a little bit more about COVID, but we didn't know. And so we just tried to put on a good show. We knew people were locked up at home, and we tried to be safe in ourselves. I mean, I had this one picture that probably lived for 25 seconds where I took a picture of the drivers' meeting. Because of, you remember, it was Garrett in the middle of the burnout pit and then a circle with people like 10 yards.
They were distance,
like way outside of the 6 feet. And then another circle. And it looked like we were making like weird shapes in the burnout pit. And I took a picture and Garrett sees me from like across the burnout pit. He goes, "Did you just take a picture?" He goes, "Delete it now." And I was like, "All right, you got it."
There was a lot of heat taken for that whole deal.
Oh yeah. And I would have told me the same thing.
Yeah.
I was just like being a kid, you know, I was doing something dumb, but it was the best thing he could have done.
And I commend him for that because I couldn't take that situation as seriously as he was able to.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you've ever taken anything seriously.
No, I'm not very good at that.
You and me both.
No, Bronte gets on me all the time for that. She's like, "This is a serious situation." I'm like, "Yeah, but like we can make a joke." Like,
speaking of serious situations, I just changing the subject here. Did you ever see on my Instagram when I went and got my driver's license picture?
No, is it bad?
Yeah, look at my driver's license picture.
Oh my goodness, what happened to your eyeball?
I went cross-eyed for it. So I'm on Instagram and I was like, "Guys, I have the best idea ever. When I go in to the DMV to get my driver's license picture taken, I'm gonna go cross-eyed." And so I like did it on video. Yeah. The very next clip, I coming out, I was like, "Let's go, guys, we did it!" Like, and I show the picture on my Instagram, and it's just me full cross-eyed vision on my driver's license picture. And I come home, my wife just is so words could not escape her. Like she wouldn't look at it. I was like, "Babe, like, did you see this?" She's just funny. She goes, "I just don't get why you can't take anything seriously."
That's how Bronte would be. Yeah.
I was like, "But it's a driver's license picture. How serious does it need to be?" Like, if you boil it down. So my perception of what needs to be serious and not, very different than most wives or your wives.
No, yeah, they think life is a lot more serious than I take it. But it's more fun when you don't take it seriously. We're going to this wedding and they're like, "It's black tie, very serious." I'm like, "Who the heck wants that?" Yeah. I'm like, well, I was in my backyard and it was so fun and casual.
Yeah, I had one of those weddings.
This like a casual or black tie?
Black tie.
Oh man, you had a pretty small one too.
Yeah,
this
only
is like
had
a big wedding. Oh, black tie. I'm like, that's so serious.
Yeah. But
I
it
just
looks so good though. I gotta be honest, it looks so good. When I went to my wedding, which was very small, my wife and I were fortunate enough to have it in the Bahamas. We had only 17 people there. It was immediate family only.
So that's fair to have stricter dress code, I feel like.
And well, I thought so too, but of course, brothers being brothers, they kick and scream their whole way to the grocery store, then they get there and they're there. You know, it's like kind of like, "Dude, you're coming anyways. You can't not go. Yeah. Just wear the thing." And I had one brother being like, "Well, dude, I can't get it done. Can't get it done. Just too busy." And I had this whole text. It was a big argument in our family. Everybody knew about it. I had this whole text ripped up how I was going to tell him, "Just piss off. Don't come. Like, it's not even worth it." So you know what I did instead? I said, "No worries. Just get a suit, and I'll have the tailor meet you in your hotel room at Atlantis." No response. And then somebody goes, "Well, what if he shows up with no suit?" I go, "No problem. There's a mall inside Atlantis. It's a casino. We'll get him a brand new suit there.
Oh, they'll sell you one.
We'll get you a suit right there. It'll be a $4,000 suit, but you'll look so goddamn good. And to tell you what, since I'm paying for it, I was going to wear it and run right into the ocean.
From Atlantis.
I was going to leave it there, bro." Like, so anyways, you know, it's like, who doesn't give their brother a hard time? It would be weird if they didn't give me a hard time. So my wedding has its own stories and it was awesome. But yes, we were all in black ties and it was so nice to see every gentleman in a black suit, black tie, white shirt. They looked good. My pictures looked great. Their pictures looked great. The women looked wonderful. They all wore the same color dress. And it's like, for a small wedding, it looked good.
Yeah, that's fair, I think, for a small wedding to do that. Yeah. I think the bigger you get, it gets a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Like mine was fairly small. I think it was 80 people in my backyard, and I wanted it to
Your
be
wedding was
casual.
great, dude.
It was a fun time.
Yeah, your wedding was a blast.
There's a video on the second channel of it if you guys want to experience the live action.
Any wedding with Brent Levestad is a wedding. Like, you cannot have a great wedding without Brent Levestad.
A garage burnout.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Big garage burnout.
Yeah, that was funny.
That was a good time. So, friends with expensive hobbies. How important is that?
Very important.
I heard somebody talking about this. They were like, I like to have friends with very expensive hobbies because you're always around successful people at that point. And I was like, shit, that's how I feel about racing. I'm always with somebody that's making way more money than me, and it's great.
Very important.
I don't want to go somewhere where I'm the rich guy in the room. Mm-hmm. Mostly because that would be a very poor room.
Yeah. Well, I think that it is very important, and we've all heard the adage of, show me your 5 closest friends, I'll show you who you're going to be. I have friends here, but I would probably say the 5 closest people that I'm around, I would say all but one of them outperform me on a very large level. And it's not performance. I'm not choosing my friends by how much money you make.
Yeah.
But the people that I associate with in a professional and personal life have things that I need to get better at, right? Does that make sense? Yep. And it's not always money. Like, Parker teases me all the time. He goes, you're the only friend that I have that talks about money all the time. It's like, well, dig deeper, dude. I'm not talking about money because I have a relationship with money.
Yeah.
It's because I want to learn on how to create a financial level where I don't have to look at my bank account for any of the things I want to do in life. That's what level of financial freedom I want. It's not a thing or a place or a location or a zip code to live. It's like, I want to be able to always tell my kids yes. Doesn't mean I'm gonna, but I want to have
always
the financial ability. Yes, exactly. So I think it is very important to have people around you that are doing things in different areas that you think that they can provide value and you can assist them. And there's a good and even exchange of knowledge and information. And so I've got some great people in my corner that make great money, but they also are wise because of it. And they've made, you got to remember this, like somebody that makes $200,000 or $300,000 a month, right? They didn't just get there. They didn't just start there.
They were making $5,000 a month at one point.
They were making $5,000 a month. Mm-hmm. They were making 10 or 20 and 30. And guess what? At one point, they were making 100 and they went back down to 5,000. So it's like, you got to understand that journey and you got to respect those people that have hustled all the way to that point. And so one of my good buddies, Isaiah, he works in our company. I look up to him immensely. Like, him and his wife, they're a young couple. They're doing very well for themselves. But he's been able to do things in the space of our business that I haven't been able to be successful with. So plugging into him, whether it's just going to a dinner once a month and getting around them more until the time where it's like, hey, I need to pick your brain. I need this. I need this. I need this. People should be able to say yes if they're your friends.
Yeah, I'm really bad about that. Like, I need to pick my friend's brain more and like ask them more specific questions on that, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's something I would like to become better at. Yeah. And there's so many people around me that have this information that I want to get out. And that's also what I can do here on the podcast, which I like to do.
That's so true.
Bring some people on that have, because there's so many people that I know that have so much success and you wouldn't even know about it half the time.
No.
Like they're like, yeah, my success was 20 years ago and I'm still just living it. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, like people that are in this, in our group, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's cool to hear from them, even when they just give like little snippets of what they've done and do. And like, it's really impressive. And that's what I need to hone in on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, without getting too much into the money thing, I think I saw this on Instagram in December of last year, and it said, help rich people solve their problems. They pay better. And like, I work in sales. And so for the past 5 years, I've been in the same job, and I've never really approached any of my friends about, hey, what I do. Like, we've talked about life insurance before, and that's what I started in. But now this year, I'm going to be getting a degree as a certified financial planner. It's a very high up level of certification in the financial services world, which is going to give me just a little bit more credibility to kind of be able to speak and people go, okay, this is the way it is. He's making the recommendations that are sensible to help build a portfolio and amass some wealth. But I spent so many years just working in the business and never really helping friends or even asking them. But it wasn't but a year and a half ago that one of our friends got diagnosed with cancer. Now she's completely clear of it. She's made an outstanding recovery, and I'm very happy for her and proud of her. But I'll never forget it because the type of insurance we offer helps you when you get diagnosed with cancer. It gives you money up front so that you don't have to go to your job every day of the week, that you're getting chemo and radiation, and then you go back to work because you need the money. And so that's the type of insurance I have on myself. I think every young person out there should have some type of life insurance. I think for people like us, we don't need the type of life insurance where it only pays out if you die. The chances, although we do risky things, the chances of us in our 30s, 40s, and 50s of just falling over and dying is rather unlikely. It does happen. But I chose to get a lot of insurance on myself that gives me liquidity if something happens. Because I am so young, Cooper, I don't have $1.5 million in the bank to cover my ass if I got diagnosed with a cancer or an illness or can't work for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm leveraging a very small portion of my income to let the insurance company take on the risk, not me. So I'm spending like $106 a month for my insurance. That gives me well over $1 million if I have something serious happen. So I'm like earmarking a very small portion of my income and letting the insurance company take on all the risk for an agreed upon amount of time. It's like, so seeing that happen to my friends, I lost a friend, Taylor Roberts, in Arizona in a motorcycle crash. And I had been doing insurance at that time. And he left behind a 4-year-old girl. And he had split from his wife at that time. But I had the conversation with the guys I rode motorcycles with, and we rode very recklessly.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the night he died, I can't help but just say, hey, dude, you were doing this and this. Like, you know what I mean? It just happened. But I'll never forget those situations. I could have said something to people I care about and just had a really uncomfortable conversation, because it's really weird for me to hit you up.
It's
and
a
be
tough conversation with people
lame.
you know.
Yeah, dude. And I don't want
Some random person, you know, you travel
Yeah.
to Orlando or whatever,
Yeah.
or local to sell insurance to is so different.
Yeah.
Because you're disconnected.
Well, the way I sell insurance, I don't cold call. I don't warm mark. I don't ever hit up any of my friends to offer them insurance. We have people that reach out to our company, and we call them leads, but these people reach out to us asking for assistance with insurance. Would you rather call that phone number of somebody that's already made an inquiry, or would you rather go put a booth up at the state fair and hand out mints, or let somebody spin to win a prize, chance to win a TV just to get their information to harass them about insurance? Like,
Yeah.
That's not me. I'm not that guy. I will not door knock to sell it.
You'd rather buy the leads.
Yeah, I'd rather just have people come to me. It's like people write us letters, actually, and they say, here's my date of birth, here's my age, here's the amount of insurance I'm looking to have because I just bought this home. Help me out. It's literally a cry for help. And I go, hey, it's Spencer. I got your letter here. I'm in the area helping out a few families this week. What day works best for you?
Yeah.
It's so easy. Like, I don't ever have people cuss me out anymore because it's like, hey, that's really weird. Like, I have this letter in
They're
front of
already
me.
planning to do that.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's weird because you wrote your date of birth. I'm assuming that's you, right? And they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I did do that. Oh, my wife did that. Tell you what, dude, this week's not good. Hey, no worries.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. I'm going to be in the area next week. I'll just give you a call then.
So the financial planning thing interests me in a kind of a weird question, I guess. So if I were to post, like, I'm, you know, in buying some crypto or something, I am not a licensed financial advisor. So I write, this is not financial advice or whatever. What kind of regulations does that put? Because there's a lot of people getting sued for, you know, pumping some crypto or claiming financial advice, but they're not financial advisors. Doesn't that put a different rule set on you if you did do that?
Yeah,
as a financial advisor?
Correct.
As a legal yeah, that's where I'd be interested.
Correct.
To, like, what that changes things.
Yes. So it actually, I've had people advise me not to get my license as a certified financial planner. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I am now in an area of regulation.
Yep.
Right. Now, FINRA is the regulatory body that regulates people like me in insurance, securities license, you know, financial services products, things like that. Now, here's what's interesting about FINRA. It's a private company. They're not a government. They're not a subsidiary of the SEC.
Yeah.
They're a private company. So it's kind of like you kind of dance into this, like where it's a private company making rules and coming after you and finding you and things like that. But everyone starts to get like, hey, there's a ton of regulation. You're going to be very heavily regulated and things like that. And I go, okay, that's fine. But if I practice and perform my business based on the subset of morals that I have, and I follow the regulations that have been set out in front of me, and if I just stay in my lane, how would that be a bad thing, right? Because how am I also going to acquire a client that's worth $150 million, being able to make portfolio recommendations or advising some of their assets with without the credentials that back me up as being like a highly educated financial services professional. Okay. So in my mind, it's like, okay, well, I can keep playing with the little fish. I have to fish a lot and I have to fish often to earn the type of lifestyle that I want to earn for myself, which I can do and have been doing, and it's great. Or I can become better at what I do. And it's like Parker, I look up to him because, dude, the guy is out of town every 2 or 3 months doing something, getting some sort of
I don't think he works.
I don't think he works either. He's getting
not convinced.
Yeah. Yeah. He comes to Project Prime the other day where my office is at temporarily. And he goes like, hey, dude, he's leaving. And I was like, oh, later. He goes, well, you're a peasant. You have to work on a Friday. And I was like, all right, dude, Mr. Monday through Thursday guy.
I don't think he works. Not convinced.
But in all reality, though, he does spend a lot of his time continuing education.
Yeah.
So he's in these seminars for. Do you think it's fun to be 9 hours of a day at a hotel conference convention center, sitting there listening, watching slides? It's probably not fun, but it probably feels really good when you're holding that certificate after, and then you have them on your wall, and you can show your clients, hey, this is what I continue to do to make sure I'm at the top of my game, to make sure that you get the top of the service and products I provide. That's how I feel about financial services. So this year is going to be my education year. I focus really heavily on the helicopter stuff. I got that done in record time. I have a couple more license in aviation that I'm going to get, fixed wing, a tail dragger endorsement. I want to do some of the other things, so I'm a little bit more diversified, but that's going to be secondary to my professional life now. So Parker does it great, man. He's constantly educating himself. But yes, the regulations on becoming a certified financial planner or a certified financial analyst or a registered investment advisor, all those things, you enter into a world of a little bit more regulation. You just got to be better.
Yeah, you just kind of open yourself up to that because there's a lot of people getting sued in the crypto world for shilling, FTC and FTX and stuff like that.
I'll be honest, what my experience was with crypto in 2017, I spent $2,000 of my own money. I bought only one cryptocurrency. I bought Bitcoin, so it was like, 0.3 of a Bitcoin at that time. In 2019, it had gone up. My 2,000 turned into 16,000. So I was like, well, that was fun. That's enough for me. Mm-hmm. I cashed it out. And guess what I did? I poured it right back into my business. My returns and gains and growth on my own money is hundreds of % when I pour it back into my business. So why would I go, siphoning off portions of my assets to do that? Yes, diversification is important. But for me, I did it. I could say I did it. I did well in it. Whatever.
Yeah, I think for most people, they would just think like there's a plateau. The more you put in eventually starts to level out. And that would be where I would think like, this podcast, putting more money into this studio isn't necessarily going to put more money out. Making it nicer, a nicer table isn't necessarily going to up the growth. And that's where like, I know it's going to plateau at a certain point of like, money in isn't money out. Like upgrading to this level definitely was as far as I really need to go.
Yeah. Well, this is so beautiful right now. And you still have your mobile setup. So like, I thought about like, I would love to take you for a ride in the helicopter. How cool would that be if we set up in a field? Yeah. Quiet field in the middle of nowhere. And you and I could do a podcast out there. Like
go hang out in the private.
Exactly. So I love what you've done here. I wouldn't change anything. It's like, this is where you're at right now. It's like you've seen Joe Rogan change his studio countless times, and guess what? He'll probably change it again.
Yeah, and I don't think it makes it any better.
Yeah,
I don't think it matters to him.
It's the content, the people you're bringing on. Are they having good conversations? Are they providing value? Are your viewers interested? Are they listening? It's really very simple.
Yeah, that's really only as far as I need to go. I listened to Meet Kevin. You ever listen to him? He's on YouTube, and he's recently just talked about how he started becoming a financial advisor and all the different things that he has to now go through, even though he's been giving financial, like he does live feeds, does financial advice all the time. Mm-hmm. But now, because he actually is a registered financial advisor, it changes how he's able to give information and what he's able to say he's investing in and stuff like that. And it's like, it's a weird world of changing things.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just, I think if you want to get one-on-one financial advice, call me, right? And I'll share with you what I know about the topics that we're talking about. The best part about working with me is that I've always been like, hey, I don't know everything, but I know the people I can call that know the thing you're probably asking. Let's just get them on the phone. So I've got good relationships in the financial services world, but you can never know everything unless I'm like the CEO of BlackRock and I've got trillions of dollars that we oversee. Or if like, I think my life goal, like, and this is the craziest thing, if I could be the CEO of a hedge fund, like if I could have such a comprehensive understanding of how to manage a portfolio that I'm getting people with hundreds or millions of dollars saying, yeah, here's a $50 million allocation.
Yeah.
That level of comprehension in financial services is the top level. That's the top 1% of 1%. Now, that level of income that I would make there is like insane. I'm not chasing that. I just want to be that good in my field where people go to him. Mm-hmm. Like, that's how passionate I am about it. And that's why this year is going to be a huge groundbreaking year for me. I'm excited.
First thing that comes to mind is growing up, I lived out in Long Island, and the prominent hedge fund investor for a lot of those people was Bernie Madoff.
Oh my goodness.
So my first experience with all of that was my dad was a roofer for $1 million homes.
Yeah.
And when all that happened, he's like, oh yeah, a lot of customers had to sell their homes. Like it was
my gosh.
like it was directly connected to like my area, so it was a very weird thing.
Yeah.
But
for those of you that don't know, Bernie Madoff was the
legend.
Yeah. He basically had America's most prolific Ponzi scheme.
Yeah,
like
on paper, it was the best hedge fund ever.
Yeah.
The most profitable investment you could make was him, and nobody understood why. And then turns out it wasn't possible.
Yeah, it turns out it wasn't real. He was actually taking your money and showing it to other people to be like, look at how much money we just earned. Which leads me to something else, Cooper. You asked me in our phone call preparation for this, which we talked very briefly, you wanted to be told something interesting.
Yeah, tell me something cool.
I want to see if you happen to know what the largest automobile car heist has been in the history of the automobile. What was the largest theft of automobiles?
Well, they did pretty good in Gone in 60 Seconds.
They did.
Vin Diesel has definitely taken a few.
Yeah. Top 10 right there.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage and Vin Diesel.
I was going to say, or the Italian Job.
Ooh.
There's quite a few that I come to mind instantly.
Those guys just stole gold. They didn't really steal
the
any
Italian
vehicles.
Yeah, they had those little Mini
Gone
Coopers.
in 60 Seconds is a lot of money. And then, you know.
Didn't they steal a bunch of cars all at the same time?
Yeah, they basically.
I think that was the plot of that movie.
The plot of the movie was the brother of Nicolas Cage got in some trouble financially or with drugs or something, and in order to pay his debt, they had to get all these cars for this guy, like this super like bad car collector. So Mark Mitchell.
Yeah.
Some super rich, evil car collector.
Too many cars. He doesn't need them.
Yeah. So Mark
Robin
Mitchell.
Hood, take them from the rich, give them to the poor. The poor need that Bugatti.
Yeah, right. So basically, Mark Mitchell says, I need all these cars in 24 hours. And that's Gone in 6 seconds. They go get the cars. They have 24 hours to get them all. They're running around town.
Yeah.
They nickname all the cars those girls' names. And that's kind of how it all works.
Classic Nicolas Cage movie.
Yeah.
He was really the guy in that deal. So the largest heist, if I were to guess, it was probably one car that was very expensive. Probably some kind of classic Ferrari, if I were to guess. I don't know anything about it, but I think most people would think, oh, you stole like a ship full of cars or something.
Think bigger scale. Think that scale. Yes, go that way. I'll give you some hints. Think ship full of cars. Think much bigger.
Wow.
Think much bigger. Not a single car.
Interesting. I would think it would be some, gull wing Ferrari that was worth $80 million or something crazy. So ship full of cars. Man, who would even be able to steal a ship full of cars? I would imagine it probably happened in some kind of communist country that stole it. Maybe Cuba, Venezuela type of South American country.
Good. You're right on the track. Would you like me to allow you to keep going?
Okay, so it was probably the drug cartel in Mexico, if I were to pinpoint
that's not
something.
It.
No? Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so back in the 70s.
That was only my deductive reasoning.
No, that was good. And I helped you a little bit, but that was really good. So
okay,
back in the 70s, back in the 1970s, the North Korean economy was doing rather well, and it was an evolving market for automobile manufacturers. Alfa was one of them, Volvo was one of them, and a couple other manufacturers that no longer exist. But Volvo struck a deal with the North Korean government, as you can imagine, there's no business in North Korea. It's just the government you do business with, for roughly 1,000 Volvos. Those Volvos were all transported into North Korea, and not a single one of those Volvos has ever been paid for. Amassing to a roughly $2.2 billion worth of vehicles.
For 1,000 Volvos?
Well, I think inflation and interest it puts you at about a $2.2 million debt.
That's a bad deal.
Yep. So North Korea from Sweden stole 1,000 Volvos. It is documented as the largest automotive heist in history.
They kind of had that coming, though. You know, I mean, if you're gonna give that many cars to, if you're gonna think that you're gonna sell that many cars to North Korea, and you're like, I'm, making all this money off some communist regime here, good deal.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I thought while reading this article, I'm like, no deposit, no amount of money up front. I'm reading like never any mention of a deposit or cash up front.
They probably gave him currency that was worthless.
Right?
You can only use it here, and we won't accept it.
Yeah, dude. Oh, we printed specially for you.
Exactly. like how easy would that have been?
Yeah. Dude, so I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool story.
Yeah, cool. Good. I'm glad that was something you hadn't heard.
Yeah, I like Volvos too, so it's sad that 1,000 of them are still probably running around.
Yeah. Until roughly 2010, those cars were still being seen in Pyeongchang. I might be mispronouncing it, the capital of North Korea. But yeah, until roughly about 10 years ago, they were still being seen on the roads and stuff. So as you can imagine, 70s to now, it's like, I love Volvo, but if they still are on the road driving, all power to them.
I mean, they might be. It's like in Cuba where there's not many cars coming into the country. They kind of have to just keep the ones that are there running.
Yeah.
And if you go to Cuba, you see all these like old classic cars, and people are like, "Oh my gosh, they're so beautiful and cool." But then you open the hood, and it's like a lawnmower engine because the engine had blown up, and they don't have anything else for it.
Yeah, no, of course.
Did you ever hear about what happened with Porsche and how they lost a whole ship of cars? As an insurance provider, I'm sure your ears start to peak up, and you're like, "Oh, you lost a whole ship of 911 Turbo S's?"
Yeah.
I'm sure that was cool.
Yeah. I think the insurance company that insures that ship is out of England. I can't remember their name, but yeah, big insurance.
That's probably a bad deal. Is that like a take an insurance company down type of deal?
No, believe it or not, insurance companies...
are they insured by another insurance company?
Yeah, so it's funny. Insurance companies in the United States, they have the legal reserve. A legal reserve means that as an insurance company, to be qualified as a legal reserve, you have to have... more assets than you have liabilities, right? And so some of our biggest companies, I mean, insurance companies have hundreds of billions of dollars. Insurance companies, I've always told people, are very good at two things: knowing when you're going to die based off your age, health, height, weight, medications, and then making money. They're very good. Okay, so in 2008, I forget the number, don't fact check me, but it was like 300, 400, 500 banks were bailed out by the U.S. government.
Yep.
Only one insurance company was bailed out by the U.S. government in 2008. And the only reason that American General was bailed out was the portion of their assets that had failed was the portion of AIG's portfolio that paid congressmen's retirements, and it was managed by the government. So it's like the part that was managed by the government was the part that failed and got bailed out. And Warren Buffett declined on buying out AIG to buy them out, but they got funding from the government. But aside from American General, AIG, no insurance companies went broke in 2008. Insurance companies have so much money, and I used to think it was from me and you paying our monthly premiums. It's really not. It's really a lot of that is the aggregate accumulation of funds that allows them to invest part of their portfolio. So from an insurance standpoint, they have the legal reserve, which means they have to have more dollars of assets than liabilities. They pay into a federal insurance fund and a state insurance fund. So that's how it works in America. But in other countries, insurance companies are investment companies, man. They make so much money buying long-term federal grade bonds and things like that. I mean, things that I don't even fully comprehend yet.
Yeah, yes, bonds and that stuff gets really complicated when they start breaking them down a lot. Yeah, well, there was a huge insurance claim. It was like a $200 million fraud that this billionaire out of out of Greece, he owned a transportation company for like oil transportation rigs and other various ships, but 16 or 17 super tankers, let's call them, right? Well, one of them had a very suspicious ending of its life where there was a fire, and then the investigators got there, and there was crews on the ship saying, let it burn. And like, there was a lot of very sketchy things happening to the point where the insurance company's like, all right, we're sending an investigator. You guys should look this up. The investigator ends up being assassinated.
The guy investigating whether it's an insurance fraud or the cause of the claim on the boat gets assassinated in a different country. And it was in South Africa that he was assassinated. There was a bomb in his car. Well, it turns out it was confirmed as fraud. And so, if you think about it, insurance company having to pay out $300 million.
They're going to investigate that.
They're going to investigate
They're going to send
that.
a few people.
Yeah,
One or two.
exactly. So, to go into the Porsche thing, it's like when you have these huge claims, you got to really take them seriously.
And those cars are like bottom of the ocean. Like they're not like
They're done.
They're gone. You're not getting those things. Well, there's all conspiracy debate on Titanic deal too.
Really?
I hear.
That
I've
they were
heard
in
people
so much debt?
claim that was insurance reasons.
Really?
That the ship had a flaw that they knew it wasn't going to last the run of its term, or make it back and forth. Whatever flaw it had was detrimental. So it was more cost efficient to sink it than it was to fix the flaw.
On its maiden voyage, though, you wouldn't let it make some money first?
It probably just knew. Maybe
But
the way that the
let me
policy
ask-
worked, by once you started to make money, once this shows some income rolling in, and
Devalued the ship. I don't know. That's interesting, because I feel like if you saw a flaw in the ship, I would probably patch it. Let's say the ship's supposed to last 50 years. You're like, we're going to get 20 years out of this unit. I would probably make 10 or 15 years worth of income.
or if it's this ship is hardly seaworthy.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Type of
like
flaw.
Wow.
That thing is gonna break in half.
That is a theory. What's interesting about that
It
theory
would make
is
sense because they made a lot of insurance money, and people that were supposed to be on that ship weren't on that ship that day.
but the engineer of the ship was on that ship.
He might not have known.
Cooper, think about what you just said.
Have you ever met an engineer?
Yes.
They think they're a lot smarter than they are.
But hold on. If you're the lead engineer,
I went to engineering school for a while.
I understand that, but think about this. If the lead engineer does not know the ship is not manufactured to be seaworthy, who did they tell? The captain? He's not in the ship making process.
Maybe it wasn't the engineer. So
Maybe
the
it was the
engineer
investors.
made it, and then
Maybe the engineer was determined to be on this ship as punishment for making such a terrible ship for the people that paid for the ship.
or nobody's going to question it if the engineer also went down.
That's interesting, because what about
Why would
this?
you question it if you're like that exact point? I'm not going to be like, oh, the engineer went down with it. Like, obviously he didn't know.
Ooh.
Right?
Yes. What about the sister ship that was made?
Well, they say that was actually the Titanic. The names were switched. Some people say that too.
Yes, they were.
So
they
it would
were
make
switched.
sense. And even when they James Cameron goes underwater to look at them, there was some funky stuff going on with what the name said. I've heard some crazy things, and I am love conspiracy theories. I don't go around saying they're all true, but I would
I love
happily
them.
hear from
They're
any
great.
person. If you tell me Australia doesn't exist, I'm gonna hear you out because it's
gotta be
hilarious and
good.
interesting.
Yeah. It's crazy. You've been there.
If you have enough facts to prove yourself, I'm gonna listen. If you're just yelling, I'm not gonna listen.
Well, to touch on that, I was at a restaurant recently, and I don't prefer lemon in my water, and I just thought I'd Google it. I'd be like, all right, is lemon in the water good for you? Pulled up an article. I opened a new browser. Is lemon in the water bad for you? I had 2 articles. Showed my wife, look, hun, lemon in the water is good for you. She goes, oh, hey, look, it's bad for you. She's
Just
like,
gaslighting her.
yeah. She's like, oh, crap.
Well, the one thing I always heard about the lemon was they don't wash the outside of them, so they're just dropping some dirty lemon into your water half the time.
I've worked in a bar. I've
Yeah.
seen what we do to bar fruit.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine it happens mostly because, especially you go to a crowded restaurant and they're slammed. They're not going to be washing.
Well, generally speaking, we actually would purchase it pre-washed from our distributor.
so then somebody's handling it.
Yeah, it usually goes in giant industrial fruit washing bins. Picture like a big washer and dryer.
I mean, then you hand it to
yeah,
busboy. That's
well,
then
when we
handled.
would cut. I mean, this is true. When we would do our prep work for the bar, you'd have a glove on. You'd have gloves
Yeah.
on, and you'd be cutting everything, and it just goes right into a sanitized bucket.
You must have worked for a pretty good one, because sometimes I watch this Gordon Ramsay show where he goes in and he goes through bad restaurants. And they're bad.
That's crazy. That is crazy. I've never worked in restaurants like that. I have never worked in restaurants that like just had a complete disregard for food safety.
Yeah.
I also worked in restaurants in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is a very competitive food culture. You can't really get away with that kind out
Yeah,
there.
you
I think
gotta
if
have
we
a
went
good
to like
restaurant.
Reno, Nevada, and some of those small towns, like no knock on
Shout
Reno,
out Reno.
shout out Reno, but I mean, just name a random small place where there's not like competition for food.
Yeah.
Like maybe here in Florida, maybe
Bradenton.
Bradenton, yeah.
There's a lot of them that are questionable.
When I first moved here, I was like, this place sucks for food. Like when it's like going out, you're going to a chain
Yeah.
restaurant here. There's no small niche restaurants that have like a very
But sometimes the chains are trustworthy, at least.
yeah, I agree.
That's the problem.
I
I'm like, I
understand.
hate just going to a chain restaurant, but then you look at the one that's like been there for 40 years and you're like, ugh, how clean is that place?
I understand.
And I hate to be that too, because I hate to be like, oh, it's so dirty. Because then I'm like, ugh, what am I?
I
Like,
get it. No, I totally understand, dude. You can't go wrong with an Applebee's margarita. At 11
Great
o'clock
grandparents
at
were
night.
on Ellis Island eating nothing, and I'm like, it's dirty.
Is dirty.
Yeah.
Ew.
I know,
Yeah.
like all freaking whiny. I hate
No.
that thought.
Hey, listen, I really appreciate good food. I cook a lot at the house, and when I cook, I go way hard in the paint, and so I love chefing it up. But yeah, food, man. Here in Bradenton, we're just lacking the diversity. There's not a big culture diversity here, so that makes our cuisine very narrow, I would say. But when I lived in downtown Seattle, I was blown away. I had like Bangladeshian cuisine, I had Jamaican cuisine, I
Yeah.
had Korean cuisine. Like there's so many different cultures you could just go into the pit on. Like going to restaurants and looking at menus that are not in the language you understand and having a conversation with the server while you're sitting on a cushion with no seat, no table, and they have a metal like 10-foot round dish and they bring out the food in this like I don't even know, like a mocajete almost. It's like a huge mocajete and it puts it in the middle and then they just pass out bread to everybody and they go dive in and then you're just like looking at the people that invited you and you're like ripping it off and you're all grabbing from the
Yeah.
same plate. And you're like, hell yeah, this is what's up. Like, but I love trying new things. Like, but
Yeah, especially with food. But here it's so closed off. Even like when we were just in Houston, and I always tell the wife, I'm like, I'm getting tacos and I'm getting barbecue. Like, don't
Yeah.
talk to me
Yep.
about anything else. Like, and then unfortunately we go there and I eat track food and Buc-ee's. But I try my best.
yeah, I think if I ever do a race week, I'll come up with a way to do meal preps. I'll have a George Foreman. I'll just stop and get meats and proteins and whatever I need, but I will do meal preps because my body, when you eat that track food, it just does not agree with it. Not in the sense
Toughens
that
you
you
up.
have like massive diarrhea. I'm just saying like my body, it doesn't fuel me appropriately. Like I'm not operating on all cylinders when I'm eating the garbage.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
energy
good
level
food.
at the end. People are like, "Yeah, you're tired." I'm like, "Yeah, because like you ate taquitos every day."
Yeah, it's terrible.
Of course you're
Could
tired.
imagine if each day, for 2 meals of the day, I gave you a fillet of salmon and fresh steamed vegetables with some rice.
A chicken breast and some rice.
Just a chicken breast and some rice. And we'll give you barbecue sauce. And, you're not competing for a fitness competition. You can make it enjoyable. But how much different if you had like a savory, protein,
Yeah.
hot meal? You'd be like, oh, I'm on my game. Think about your reaction time. Think about the decision making you do. Like, it's like you're on race week. It's like,
I wanted to like buy one of those little hot dog carts to use as a trailer instead.
yeah.
Like just some dirty water dogs out there.
Yeah. Stop talking about it. Start being about it, dude.
I know. I looked at a few. I was like, man. And then they have all these they have tiny wheels. So I'm like, oh, that thing's gonna be rolling down the highway.
But that's the thing, dude. You just gotta like do a video on your car channel where you buy the hot dog cart and you soup it up for the road.
yeah.
Put some like 8-ply tires
The
on
umbrella
it. Just
out
get a
there,
trailer
still
tire.
flap.
Yeah, dude. Make it funny and be like, help fund race week. Cooper's hot dogs.
Yeah.
$2.
Just start selling them.
Yeah.
I got Sketchy with me. He could just sell hot dogs all day. I'll go race the car.
Yeah. I mean, dude, there's no reason you can't sell some hot dogs.
The hustle never stops, right?
Yeah, right. You're gonna have to have a chase vehicle full of buns and Hebrew Nationals, but
You just stop at a grocery store or whatever.
Yeah.
Stop at Restaurant Supply.
yeah.
So you've lived a lot of places. Where would you move back to? If you had to, you're leaving Bradenton now. Bradenton sucks. It just went underwater.
Can I tell you my
Global
least
warming, got
favorite
it.
place I've lived? Bradenton.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
What I find different about Bradenton is although I have a good group of friends, I think in general, the people here in Florida are much more quick to anger. They're less understanding and comprehending of a set of circumstances. They're meaner Now, it's not to say my feelings aren't hurt. You find mean people everywhere you go. I just think Florida people stand their ground, and I love that about Florida. People are not going to budge when you press them. It's like you don't want to be the fall over community, or like let's take a very liberal place I've lived, like downtown Seattle. Downtown Seattle was beautiful for the things I liked about it, but I met no friends there. I don't have any friends left in Seattle. Now, I was focusing on my business very heavily, but none of the people I met were like, hey, we have a common set of similarities that we both like. So Seattle would be off the list. California, I lived there temporarily growing up in my like 19 to 20 range, and I loved it. And
Best weather in the world.
Best weather. It's close to the beach. I surfed a ton.
Yeah.
Like my life was very single track, like make enough money for groceries and board wax, and I lived that life, and it was awesome. But nowadays, I don't think it's the right place to leave. They have state income tax, highest taxes in the country, aside from New York. Like, I'm just probably out of there. Arizona, I did most of my growing up there, so it made me really happy to leave there, but I could see myself going back to that climate or Colorado. I enjoyed Denver, Colorado. I don't know much about how it's changed differently. I like seasons. I like weather. I like the cold. Like, I'm cool with all of it. And I'm also the type of guy that's like, I'll just deal with what the weather brings. Like, I hate the cold. I hate the hot. I think summers here in Florida are the worst ones because you can't fix it. It's just humid and hot. It's insane.
This whole year has been summer, basically.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten anything colder than like 70s.
No, we had some 40s here where
very 3 days.
3 days, yeah. And like my whole house goes into like, we're turning the heat on. I'm like, yo, like,
put a
everybody
sweatshirt
chill, right? But my wife grew up here and she hates the cold. It's like, I just think it's so funny. Like, if you thought about it, would you rather be in the cold or would you rather be in the hot? And the way I've always viewed it is like, well, with the cold, you buy the appropriate apparel to make you warm when it's cold. What do you buy to make you cool when it's 95 degrees out with 85% humidity? You can't buy anything. There's no amount of apparel you can wear to make you cooler.
Yeah.
So versus this winter, it's like you can fix cold by adding layers and wearing the appropriate gear. So that's my perspective. Colorado or Arizona could see me being a happy camper there.
I'm envious of Colorado because they have outdoors. I feel like we don't have outdoors here, and maybe I'm being closed-minded, but
no,
like,
we don't. We don't have
just
hiking.
Nothing.
We don't have rock climbing. We don't have the up north. We don't have the woods. We don't have the mountains. We don't have mountain biking. We don't have snowboarding. We don't have sledding. We don't have rock climbing. We don't have. I mean, yes, we have some kayaking, but we don't have
very little outdoors.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of things you can do in Colorado that are extremely like the fresh air in Colorado is insane. Like hunting also, walking on the Front Range, hiking some of those mountains up in the Breckenridge and Dillon and some of those communities up there, Arapahoe Basin. You just breathe differently.
Yeah, like going on Rocky Mountain Race Week, like just seeing that scenery in the springtime and the summer is the most insane scenery ever. Yeah. And then you see like Florida and you're like, oh, there's a gator and a tree.
Yeah.
And it looks the same kind of everywhere you look. There's beaches, but like it's not really outdoors. It's just like sitting on a beach.
Yeah. And it's so funny because the friend group that I'm part of here, and you included, you're obviously part of the friend group, but we've never been to the beach once. And they always go, oh, going to the beach is for the tourists. I'm like, yeah, but we live here. Like, it's actually kind of nice to just go rip around, like play some tackle football or something. But it's like, there's definitely a disparity.
I grew up on the beach, so I just have no desire anymore.
Gotcha.
Like, I spent my whole childhood at a beach, in a beach community.
Gotcha.
So it's just
must
like,
be nice.
Yeah, I know.
You're making it sound so terrible.
Real bougie. I know.
Yeah.
I hate that. But like I feel like anything you grew up with, you're just like, you push it away. You almost reject what you.
For me, that is competitive sports. Like, I played competitive sports at such a high level growing up, and my brothers, and I was probably the worst out of my brothers, and you would still consider the level of competitive sports I played very high. But then when people are like, I don't even know who played in the Super Bowl, this recent one. I don't follow the European Soccer League. I don't follow football, baseball, or anything like that. And part of that was because I was so heavily into it growing up that it didn't allow me to take on other things in my life. So I just don't care about that anymore. The whole aspect of me wearing another grown man's jersey and cheering him on, that's for some people. I'd rather go to the park with my daughter and watch her play on a playground. I would literally rather do that.
It's funny you say that about the competitive sports because I never played sports really growing up, mostly because I was uncoordinated until probably this year. I was too like basically until like 18 I was not on par enough to play competitive sports. And now with racing is like the first time I actually competitively can compete in something and actually like do it. So that's why I do it so as much as I can competitively race. And people are like, "Oh, just go to test and tune and go down the track." I'm like, that's not fun to me.
Yeah.
It's only fun when you're racing.
Well, that's part of the reason why I haven't built my car yet. Okay, because the competitive aspect, once I get a taste of that again, I'm going to be very hungry.
It's the best.
I'm going to be very hungry. And it takes a lot of money to play in that game. So I don't know. I think the first car I build will be one that I can drive with my wife and my daughter and just go do fun stuff. Keep the AC in it, but make it a street car with a cage, probably 800 horsepower, something like that. But, yeah, the competitive aspect, I admire what you guys do and just going faster and the money you spend on parts to go faster. Like, it's incredible. It's very expensive.
It sucks.
It sucks. Yeah, dude.
It's terrible. I don't recommend it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot, dude. It's a lot. And then being on the road and then just, I don't know if drag racing is for me because I don't know enough about it yet to spend all the money into it and then to sit there and wait for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours to have my 8-second shot.
Yeah.
I need to do it a little more.
It's definitely hard with that. Like if you went like road course or drift, you would get more seat time.
Yeah.
But I can't do drifting because I can't do judge sports well. Anything that's judged, I immediately dislike. I immediately distrust.
That's tough.
Anything judged.
Yeah.
I struggle with the burnout stuff the same way.
Yeah.
I don't like being judged like that. Like a drag strip is easy. It's a win light.
Yeah, that's very true. There is a winner and a loser, and there's no
clear.
perception.
Nobody can debate it.
Yep. I agree. That's a very good thing. And I could think if I were to get into any type of racing or auto sport, I would not do autocross. That's not for me. Road course racing would be cool. But also like the Freedom Factory kind of stuff, like that kind of racing excites me because it's like that's cool racing. So oval track, I could see myself doing like
door to door oval track.
Well, like the mini compact
There's a clear
series
winner or loser.
Yeah, when we had the compact series at our track, I was like, that's sweet. Like those cars are fast and they're purpose built. It's like, all right, those guys are getting after it.
Drifting is very like a style sport.
Yeah,
like, you have to have like some wow factor to you. Your car has to be exciting. Like, it's tough. It's like figure skating.
Yeah,
it legitimately judged similar.
Yeah,
to like that.
You're right.
And that's where it loses me.
Yeah.
And anytime you debate a judge is like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not for me.
Yeah, the judging sports, I could see where the challenge is, but think of it from the aspect of that's how much better you have to be for it to be such a clear winner. Like think about an Aussie burnout. People will be right on the cusp of winning that burnout, but there's going to be one guy that goes out there and almost flips his little shoebox car, but he burns the tires off, no fire, no wall contact, and you're going to be like, he wins. Like, what do you want me to say?
Yeah.
And so there's like there's an added level of competitiveness where it's like you have to bring the it factor. So there's like, two ways to look at it, but I see what you're saying.
I get it. I always also say I'm not charismatic enough to be picked as a winner in things.
Yeah. I think that's one of my strengths is like I bring a lot of personality, sometimes too much, where it's like, oh, well, that's Spicy Spaz. It's like, let's see him rip,
Yeah,
so,
I would rather like the car do the talking like in a drag strip.
Hey.
The car does the talking, I guess, for me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it's at. Well, we either have to wrap this up or I got to use the bathroom.
Gotcha. I got one more interesting fact for you.
Okay, let's go.
When the World Trade Centers came down, it was about 10 years before they began to build the One World Trade Center.
Yep.
Okay. And in 2010, they found, when they started excavating for the foundation of the new World Trade Center, they found a wooden ship under the foundation of the original World Trade Centers that dates back to 1770s. Did you know about that?
I've heard a little bit about it, not too much.
Very interesting to find out.
Yeah.
So when they did some of the testing on the wood of the ship, I mean, this was a very large ship. It wasn't like a canoe or nothing, but they tested that where the wood was
a Viking
extracted
ship, wasn't
from. No, it was a ship that was used to transport goods up and down those main rivers there. And it was locally harvested, the wood, but they dated it to like 1773. So very interesting to find that it happens to be buried right under the World Trade Center, and they hadn't found it before. But in 2010, they'd found it, and it's pretty crazy stuff. So
Yeah, that's definitely weird. I'm curious where it's sitting at now. I'm sure it's in some Smithsonian somewhere.
Yeah, Smithsonian. You know who else has a lot of cash? The Smithsonian.
Yeah,
they buy a whole bunch of stuff.
They are cashed up, and some of that stuff that's in the basement that everybody wants to see, they're keeping down there.
Yeah, they're not showing us.
Yeah. You know who else has some weird artifacts? The Vatican. They got some crazy
Next
stuff.
podcast, bro. I would love to come back and where we dive into some of these, like, let's do some research. Let's
get some conspiracy stuff going.
Let's get some
full hour of like, because the Vatican has some weird stuff in the basement.
Yeah.
They have a whole like archives of books.
Yes.
That they don't show anyone.
No.
And it's a 2,000-year-old building. Yeah. So even if it's just from 2,000 years ago, it's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think that'd be good. I'll be your conspiracy theorist.
Okay, perfect.
We'll come back and we'll do it.
Well, we'll get the tinfoil hats.
Yeah, we'll do the costumes. We'll do everything.
I want to keep a tinfoil hat over here so that like somebody starts telling me something interesting. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, you gotta pop that on. Like, Well,
and quick disclaimer though, the small water bottles were an accidental purchase.
Oh,
that was not on purpose. I got back from Costco and was like, damn it.
Well, I drink a lot of water, and I probably should have polished off.
No, you're good. People were like, I don't trust people that buy small water bottles. It's like, it's not on purpose. Yeah. But dude, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. It was a good time, just hanging out.
Yeah. The studio's always open anytime. Anytime we got some interesting stuff going on, we can do some conspiracy, break some books and back and forth, have some more coffee.
Yeah, dude.
But that was a fun one, guys. Where can they find you at?
Instagram is probably my most active platform. I'm probably about a month or two away from doing some stuff on YouTube and whatnot. But Spicy Spence on Instagram, the first E is the number 3. So Spicy Spence on Instagram, you'll see me doing all my stuff. That's the best ways. If you guys have questions about insurance and you need to kind of get your family situated, you could email me, spencer@fflprotect.org. That's the best place to kind of just get some questions answered and just kind of find out what you're looking for. But
okay, so maybe in the comments on YouTube, I'll pin a comment from Spence so his YouTube can get a little bit of like
I do have
something
a YouTube
rolling.
on there.
So maybe go comment just to get things rolling a little bit.
That'd be great.
Dude, thanks for coming on. That was a blast. That'll do it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.